We doing it now?
Doing it now.
Alright. Nintendo reveals the Super Nintendo Entertainment System Classic Edition, which is just a super fancy long way of saying they're releasing the SNES plug and play. And number one, everyone in the world called it. Number two, it's beautiful. Number three, I'm already out $80. Makes me so sad, but it makes me so happy at the same time. Sometime this week, June 26th, they revealed that the Super Nintendo Entertainment System is, it's coming. They're going to be releasing it September 29th for $80, like I said before. And it contains 21 preloaded titles. And the Nintendo Entertainment System, we basically talk about everything before we start the podcast, or at least the good stuff.
Number of things.
The good things. Or the things that we both have something to talk about.
This is one of those things.
Yeah. We had mentioned before that the NES version, they had like some pretty good titles, and then they had some titles on there that I'd never heard of, or titles that you said just didn't really hold the same ground.
Looking at you, Ice Climbers.
Yeah. Your game is garbage, but goodness gracious, are you a fun character in Smash.
A classic game. It's a game that needs to stay in the past.
It's pretty bad. But the 21 titles that they've released for the Super Nintendo are all they're all hitters. They're all just amazing. Like if there's a few titles that are on here, which is kind of sad. It's also a little weird that they only have 21 titles on here instead of 30. I think we'll talk about that in a little bit here. But the 21 games that are going to be preloaded on there are Contra 3, The Alien Wars, Donkey Kong Country, Earthbound, which I'm sure everyone's excited for because we've been waiting for an English port of that and Mother 3 for a really long time.
What, Earthbound? It's been around. And the problem with Earthbound is it just now got released to the Virtual Console within like the last year. Before that, you had to either emulate it or pay like over $200 for the Super Nintendo Kart.
What about Mother 3?
We've never had Mother 3.
That's the one I'm thinking of then. But yeah, I've heard a bunch of people talk about that, and with like I think that might be like one of the big ones that people are interested in because I've never played the game before. I've played games that are similar to it, like Undertale, and I've been thinking about buying a game called Lisa that's on Steam. Super sad, depressing game. Don't play it if you get sad because that game is just terrible and depressing.
Soul-crushingly depressing.
Have you heard about it?
No.
Oh, I might show it to you. Maybe not. I don't know if you'd be into it. It's sad. It's really depressing. But it's the same, like, the fighting mechanics are similar.
I play games to have fun. I'm going to play Lisa now.
Well, I'm a masochist. Everyone knows that. One of my favorite games is Dark Souls, so I just like being sad all the time. But yeah, to like play the game that those are all based off of, that'd be cool. Final Fantasy 3, F-Zero. Nintendo Switch needs to have an F-Zero game. Just saying. Kirby Superstar, Kirby's Dream Course, which we both said is probably
it's a bit weird.
It's one of the weakest, if not the weakest title on this game.
It probably is.
The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, which
classic.
I just now realized is the only one on there that has a trademarked. None of them else have any trademark symbols next to them, but that's the only one with one. But yeah, it's like when people talk about like top 5 or top 3 best Zelda games, that's usually on their list.
Usually, yeah. It's
a great game. Mega Man X, I'm super pumped about that. I've said it before, that game had to be on it. Glad it's on there. Secret of Mana, or Mana, however you say it. Star Fox 2, Street Fighter 2, Turbo Hyper Fighting.
Whoa. You can't blow past Star Fox 2.
I've never played Star Fox 2.
There's good reason. It's never been released before.
Oh.
That's kind of the big. In fact, that's like the 21st game on there. Like it was 20 plus 1 on the box. The reason why it's such a big deal, it's like the first Star Fox except fully 3D environments. Like it's not a rail shooter. You can actually fly around in 3D. And they were just like, you know what? This same game we could just put this on the N64 and make it look a whole lot better. But there were definitely some elements in Star Fox 2, like even the chicken walker that we didn't see till Star Fox 0, that originated from Star Fox 2. But yeah, so this is a completely unreleased game. It was like 99% complete when they axed the project, and it was kind of sad that we never got it. But now we're getting it. So for a lot of people, $80 for that game alone will be worth it.
Nice. Didn't know that. Street Fighter 2 Turbo Hyper Fighting, Super Castlevania 4, which I've heard it's very
really good things about it.
I've heard like half and half. Like some people like it, some people don't. Because of I guess it's more simple. It looks a lot better than any of the other previous Castlevania games, but I've heard that your whip is basically the best weapon. And you don't really need to use items.
I think that is the case, and it's basically the first game remade.
Yeah, but it looks so much better.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that. Super Ghouls and Ghosts. Ghouls and Ghosts. That was one of the games that was on the NES, wasn't it?
See, I think it's Ghosts and Goblins.
Ghosts and Goblins.
So Ghouls and Ghosts is the sequel.
Okay, yeah. Super Mario Kart. Not a fan. Not a fan.
I will play it simply for a nostalgic factor because I think I was with my cousin who was like the biggest Nintendo fan. He's on YouTube, by the way. Nightwing 01. I don't know if he wants me giving out that we're related, but we are.
I don't know if he wants to be admitted to that.
Anyway, I was there when he got Super Mario Kart, and like we both played it like fresh out of the box, and it's for those memories alone, it was good. But yeah, Mario Kart in general, I'm just kind of.
I like Mario. I think Double Dash is probably one of my favorites, just because like. I don't know. Me and my brother and our two best friends growing up would always play it, and we would like switch like the teams around because there were 4 of us. So, and it was one of the more fun and interesting Mario Kart games. This one to me is just crap. It's just I don't mean to dump on your childhood. I guess sorry. I'm not a fan.
I'm glad. Well, there is one thing about this game that most Mario Kart games do not have, and that's the coins.
I think
you collect 10 coins and you get like faster and better items, and they had that in the Game Boy Advance version, and I think they brought it back in 8.
I think 8 had it. They might have had it in 7.
They might have.
But yeah, it's a thing.
But it's a good mechanic. I don't know why they just sort of like Super Mario Kart 64. Nope, get rid of it.
Well, I actually played Super Mario Kart 8. I didn't notice that collecting coins gave you a speed boost until I think like 4 or 5 weeks ago. I was watching some YouTubers play Super Mario Kart, and they were talking about, it's like, oh, the coins make you faster, by the way. And one dude had, like, his mind blown, and I was sitting there like, what? So, yeah.
And then when you get hit, you lose some. It's great. I love that mechanic about it.
Yeah.
They never should have taken it away.
Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars, which is just, I guess, every Mario RPG fan's favorite game in the world, and rest in peace, Gino will never be played in Smash other than a skin
for your Mii fighter.
Yeah,
the Gunner, which is no one ever plays as the Gunner. You know, the Gunner's pretty good.
I prefer the sword.
I like the Brawler. Believe it or not, they're so nasty. They're just so like in your face, I'm just gonna rip off all your limbs and beat you with them all at once. It's kind of feeling I get from him. It's very raw.
Nice. Yeah, that's a big one. I've never played it before. I've played almost all the Super Mario RPG games.
Like Mario, Luigi, Paper Mario.
I've played all the Mario, Luigi games. I've only played the Thousand Year Door. And then, yeah, I guess the rest of them are just on the DS. I can't think of any of them that have been brought to console.
None of them have.
Yeah, so this is a big one for most people. Super Mario World, which is
some people's favorite Mario game ever.
It is, yep. As far as the side-scrolling platformers, Super Mario World is my favorite. Because it's just the best. You can't get better. Like even the Super Mario World or the Super Mario like DS game, they gave you like the Mega Super Shroom or whatever.
One thing that so Super Mario Brothers 3 will always be my favorite Mario game, I think. But one thing that World does so much better than 3 is that you don't have a ton of suits that you're going to use maybe once in the game. Like, there was a lot of power-ups in 3. Like, they went crazy with the amount of power-ups. And then with World, they're like, no, let's simplify it, and we'll give you Yoshi.
Just get, as long as you get the feather and you have a Yoshi, you win the game.
You can fly, there's Fire Flower. And then Yoshi has like a bunch of different ways that he can power up too. So
which is cool. Also, apparently, side note, there's an exploit to where if you eat a Koopa shell the right way as Yoshi, you can get a cloud that Lakitu rides, and you can ride it. Apparently, it's super hard to do, and it has a very high chance of crashing your game. So it may or may not have been fixed.
Good idea.
Look it up and test it. Maybe not, because I doubt you want to spend $160. Finally, Super Metroid. Really looking forward to it. I've been in a Metroidvania kick for a while, so looking forward to that.
And several people say this is between this and Metroid Fusion, the best 2D Metroid game.
Oh yeah, they just look pretty and they play so well. Super Punch-Out.
A lot of people don't know about Super Punch-Out. Like, everyone says Punch-Out, they're like, oh yeah, Mike Tyson's like, but there was also a Super Nintendo one. And it had, like, transparent, like, effects with the boxer. I've never played it, but, I mean, it's basically like a Super Nintendo version of Punch-Out. So,
no, well, good. I hate Little Mac and Smash, so I don't care for this game. And then Yoshi's Island, which I think is even easier than Kirby.
Several people love Yoshi's Island.
I like the music. And I like the visual for the game.
Oh, yeah. The visuals were spot on. They actually used, like, the Super FX chip, the same chip that made Star Fox possible, but they used that on, like, the sprite work in that game. Like, that's how Yoshi could, like, morph into that cool animation where it, like, morphs into different items in the game.
I think he can be, like, a helicopter and a mole.
Yeah.
So like, just an amazing lineup compared to the NES. The NES had maybe like 5,
some
maybe
stinkers.
6
really
good games.
You're not going to play Donkey Kong over and over again on that game.
No, this one, besides Contra, Star Fox, Super Mario Kart, Street Fighter 2, and Super Punch-Out, I'm probably going to be playing all of those.
So, at first, I was kind of like, hey, 21 games, you're charging $20 more, and I just felt like you got more with the NES Classic. Well, to be fair, these games are going to take you longer to beat. They're like, that was just the difference between 16-bit and 8-bit. 16-bit, the games got a little bit longer. They of course look better. And I mean, look no further than A Link to the Past and Super Mario World for like the definitive versions of like games for those respective franchises. They happened on the Super Nintendo. So you're getting a lot of value here. I broke it down so if you got 30 games for 60 with the NES Classic, that was $2 a game. They're charging you $80 for 20 plus the one unreleased game. So that's about $4 a game. I think that's worth it for Super Nintendo games. I really do. It is, at the same time, they could have released more. It's kind of strange that, like, one of the things that I mentioned when we were talking about, hey, what would we want on an SNES Classic if they made one? I said, put all 3 Donkey Kong Country games on there. Even though the first one is my favorite, and I'm glad that that's the one that made it, several people love 2. They love Diddy's Conquest. 3, I don't think enough people have... 3 probably has solid gameplay. I just don't like the characters you play as.
It's because, like, Dixie Kong was, like... It was new and interesting because she had, like, a helicopter mechanic, spin. Which was, like, that was cool.
And
Dixie, she's also been, like, a staple character for, like, a long time now.
Mm-hmm.
But,
she made a comeback in Tropical Freeze.
Yeah, like, she's there. She's, like, definitely a staple Donkey Kong character now because of that game.
She got pretty high up on the Smash roster, I think, when they were...
I was going to say, they were thinking about making her.
Yeah, she came close.
Which, it seems really interesting.
I would have preferred King K. Rool, but that's me.
Yeah. But, yeah, and, like, I was talking to you, like, I thought... I wasn't expecting Secret of Mana. I was kind of expecting Chrono Trigger, just because, like, anyone who's a fan of the SNES era, like, will preach to the sun about Chrono Trigger.
There are 2 RPGs on Super Nintendo. If you own a Super Nintendo and you like RPGs, you must own them. The first one is Final Fantasy 3/6, which is on here. Kind of curious as to why they didn't also include 2/4, because that's also very good. I've actually played through that whole game. So yeah, it's like kind of like, why not have it on there? But if you're gonna pick between the 2, you put 3 on there. So you've got Final Fantasy 3 and Chrono Trigger. Which one's better? I don't know. People will argue that, like, to the end of video game ages. It's ridiculous how close those games are as far as people regarding them as which is the best 16-bit era RPG. And it comes down to those 2. I honestly think Square is done with Chrono Trigger.
Which is fine.
It's not fine.
I mean, there's only so many times you can remake the game for a new console, which is like, yeah. Like,
but this is supposed to be classics. You know?
Yeah. Which, like, again, like, I was expecting it on there.
If you don't care for it, if you don't care what happens to it, I mean, if we have... That being said, though, I mean, there's no shortages of RPGs on this one. On NES Classic, you only have Final Fantasy. Star Tropics really doesn't count. That was more like a Zelda-type adventure game. Action-adventure game. But you have Earthbound, Final Fantasy 3, and Super Mario RPG. Like, those between... Like, we have 3 times the amount of RPGs represented here. So, I think we'll be okay. Yeah, Contra 3, I mean, that's fun for a buddy game. F-Zero, of course you should have that. Kirby Superstar... It's a really good Kirby game. And it has like it's kind of like split into like 6 different games. One of them is called, I think it's like the first one you have to play before you unlock the others, but it's called Spring Breeze, and it's basically Kirby's Dream Land remade on the Super Nintendo. And when I first played it, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is the game I've been playing for years on my Game Boy. But now it has the copy ability as part of it, which just makes it super, super easy. When Kirby games are already easy.
I think it has the Great Cave Offensive.
Yeah, it has that in it too.
I liked that just because
it's okay.
You just run around, you collect a bunch of treasure.
It's like a collectathon before there were collectathons.
Yeah, it's fun. Also spawned one of the largest map in Smash Brothers history.
Indeed, the largest map.
I'm gonna be playing Mega Man X for days.
Yeah,
honestly, like that's probably one of my favorite. That A Link to the Past, and
I would have to say Mega Man X is my favorite Mega Man game, with the exception of Legends. Like I'm talking like 2D Mega Man games. It's my favorite one
because it was just like they had like Mega Man 1 through what was it, like 8, 10?
At that point, I want to say they had done 1 through 6, and then they came out with X.
Yeah, it's like you had Tiny Blue Bomber, and then you had, bam, the coolest looking Mega Man sprite ever. Fight me, I'll kill you. It's the greatest ever. It doesn't matter. Zero looks super cool. Did
you ever watch Egoraptor's sequel? Not, I don't think it's Sequelitis. Was it Sequelitis that they did, where he just goes on and on about how good of a game it is? I've never seen a better breakdown of this game.
Because everything he said, like you've disagreed with a lot of things that he said.
Yeah, he's 100% right about Mega Man X.
That first level is beautiful. It teaches you everything about the game. And like one map, you don't need a tutorial for. Mega Man in general has just been like amazing and like teaching you how to play and how to get through the maps by letting you play the map.
Right.
Which is one thing I love. Again, something like Dark Souls, it doesn't tell you how to do anything. You just have to learn, which is great. I love that. Especially nowadays when like every AAA title wants to hold your hand and walk you through like you've never shot a virtual gun before.
You've never pressed a button before.
Exactly. Like press A to jump. I was going to press A to jump because I thought it would be jump. Unless you're a Bethesda game and you make jump Y. Which stands for why is this jump? But yeah, Mega Man X is just so good.
It is. Secret of Mana, I think a lot of... I haven't played the game for longer than 10 minutes, but that was just to like test it out, see what all the hubbub was about. It plays like a Zelda game. So, you've only got one Zelda game on here, so once you're done with A Link to the Past, play this. It's probably going to be very similar. We have Star Fox. I enjoy the original Star Fox. I've never playing the different routes. I've only played like the standard route going all the way through. It's a challenging game that, yeah, it doesn't look very very much like anything nowadays.
It's bad. It's
pretty
bad.
I just love the fact that they got that game to run, period, on the Super Nintendo, and it's really it's definitely a Super Nintendo classic. I think
it's like looking at an Alpha 0.0.1
of what, Star Fox 64.
Yes.
Well, and then Star Fox 2. It's going to have... that one had enhanced visuals. The ROM has been floating around for years, the incomplete ROM. But like the 99% complete ROM. So I'm pretty sure they're not just going to give us that. I'm sure that they have actually finished the game. Like put a little bit of development into it. Which is great. Like no one was expecting this to happen. I think Street Fighter 2 Turbo Hyper Fighting, I think that's considered the best version of Street Fighter 2 on the Super Nintendo. There's about 3 of them, I want to say, that you can get. Super Castlevania 4, Ghouls and Ghosts. Ghouls and Ghosts, that's actually one of the best versions of that franchise of games. Yep, Super Mario RPG. I'm looking forward to playing that. Super Mario World. I've played that to death, but I'd love to play it again. Super Metroid, one of the few Metroid games I haven't played yet that I need to play.
There's a reason why the genre is called Metroidvania.
Right.
They just... It's like, alright, you've mastered it. It's your genre.
Yeah. And, I guess the reason why I was talking about this in the first place. It's kind of weird that you had like Final Fantasy 3 but not 2, and you're missing the Donkey Kong countries. I kind of feel like they could have just included those to be nice.
I'd be fine. Like, I don't mind that like Donkey Kong Country 2 and 3 aren't on there. Like, if they had 2 on there, that'd be cool, because that was I played the Game Boy Color version of that game. I haven't played the Super Nintendo version of it, so like it'd be cool to play it. And funny enough, that game actually wasn't in color
on Game Boy Color.
Yep, if I remember it being.
Was it Donkey Kong black. Land 2?
I don't think so.
Because they had Donkey Kong Land 1, 2, and 3, which were basically Game Boy versions of it. They did do Donkey Kong Country on Game Boy Color, and it's the same levels. Like it's like an 8-bit version of Donkey Kong Country. And then they did Donkey Kong Country 1, 2, and 3 on Game Boy Advance, which are ports of the Super Nintendo ones.
Maybe I'm thinking of Donkey Kong Country or Donkey Kong Land.
Because that one was definitely not in color.
If that is the case, then I've never played it before. So, but I've seen it a bunch, and it's basically Donkey Kong Country 1, but with, Diddy and Dixie.
Donkey Kong.
No Donkey Kong.
Because he's been captured.
Because Donkey Kong, surprisingly, is stupid.
So, the console also comes with 2 Super Nintendo controllers. When I first saw that they were coming with 2 controllers, and you just kind of see the mold of this thing, I was kind of like, well, those controller ports look really shallow. I don't think you're going to be connecting into there. Like, are the connections like on the side or in the back? Like, what's going on? Apparently, that's a panel that flips down, and then you can get to the little, U-shaped Wiimote ports that are on the NES Classic. So, here's a thought. These will probably, if you have an NES Classic, these will probably work on that.
I can't wait to play all these Super Nintendo games with a nunchuck.
It probably won't work. Just the nunchuck.
Just the nunchuck. I'm playing a video game. Like, you're just moving. You're dead.
But that's nice if you did get an NES Classic and, you bought like either an extra controller, or if you bought the controller extensions, those controller extensions will work on this because it's the same exact hookup. I don't know about this for sure, but when I was searching for images of this earlier today, I did see what looked like a SNES Mini or Classic. I'm not calling it the Mini. We're not in the UK. A SNES Classic with Super Nintendo controllers next to it, and the cords were wrapped up, and it looked like an ample amount of cord. It didn't look like, the little 1.5-foot sample cord, which we got with the NES Classic controller. So maybe they learned with it. Okay, I know we've been talking about this topic for nearly 30 minutes now. But this time, Nintendo, this time, they have said that they're going to make significantly more units of this than the NES Classic. Great. Fantastic. Glad to hear it. And it's also not going to be released in November. It's going to be released at the end of September.
That's what I said.
Right. But that's good compared to November, where like not everyone's thinking about like Christmas gift. Like, normal shopping is happening around that time. So maybe not all the soccer moms are trying to get this for their kid that will play it for 5 minutes and then never play it at all. I totally am not speaking from experience. The UK currently has pre-orders every time. I think I've seen 3 waves of pre-orders, and every time it happens, they get sold out. And by the way, the UK version of the Super Nintendo, it's like the Super Famicom. Looks much better than ours. I'm sorry. You guys got the much better. The purples thing with the Super Nintendo. Why was purple the thing then? The 90s were so weird. The other version, like the Super Famicom, like that's a timeless design.
I think it makes it look older. It's got like a weird coffee stained brown.
On what?
the whole console. It's like coffee stained brown and red.
Which one? Super Nintendo?
Super Famicom.
This is there's like a light gray and a dark gray mixed together, and then the logo is like red, blue, green, and red. No, red, blue, green, and yellow.
What am I thinking of?
You might be thinking of a yellowed version of the Super Nintendo because the plastic yellows with age. Like cheese. But don't eat this.
That's what you want on your console.
Yeah, I want pre-orders for this. I have bookmarked the Amazon pre-order page. They're supposed to send me an email, but Amazon, you failed me with the NES Classic. You were supposed to send me an email when those pre-orders went up, and you didn't. I had to find out from a friend when the item was going to go on sale, and I missed it, and continued to miss it, just barely, till I finally got one.
I know that it's going to be released when I'm working, so I'm going to have to just be like, I'm going to be talking to a customer, and I'm going to get an alert. I'm just like, listen, you need to sit down. I will talk to you in like 5 minutes. I have to go spend money.
I've really got to go take care of something first.
I have to go to the bathroom and just take the computer with me.
Oh, that doesn't look bad at all.
No,
the Super Nintendo, though, this version, just make enough, please. When you say you're going to make enough, like, you need to make at least 10 million of these things. I'm not joking. I'm really not joking. And they have said that they're going to make them through 2017.
You know what? I'm sure if you bought, like, and this is going to happen. This is absolutely going to happen. You know there's going to be someone who's going to buy like 20 of these and then sell them for like $200.
That's happening with the pre-orders in UK. Like, you can buy a pre-order for like $120 or something like that.
Oh, people are monsters.
They really are. People, I have to say that the people that I talked to about the NES Classic that were not interested in the NES Classic are now interested in this. They want this one. I feel like more people are more aware and familiar and enjoy the Super Nintendo more than the
It's
Classic.
just better looking, better sounding, better games.
Yeah.
Papa John's.
Great. And I'm looking forward to it. Like I said before with the NES Classic, I hope they're able to crack this wide open and you can just put all the Super Nintendo games on there, because then I will have an NES with all the NES games and a Super Nintendo with all the Super Nintendo games, and I will just swap them out on my TV as needed.
I wonder if Nathan knows about it.
He may not, because he's actually been in
Canada.
Oh,
Canada, a land of the moose.
And we have been talking about this a long time.
Yes, we have.